Captain Jake Morrison looked out the window of his spaceship. The stars seemed so small and far away. But today was different. Today, humans would meet aliens for the first time. His heart beat fast in his chest, thought the alien ship was huge. It looked like it was made of glass and crystal. Light bounced off its surface in pretty colors. Jake had never seen anything like it. The ship was 10 times bigger than his own vessel, the UES Liberty. "Captain," said Commander Lisa Hayes. She walked up to him with a tablet in her hands. "Everything is ready for the meeting. We have gifts to show them about our world." Jake nodded. He had been thinking about this day for months. First, the aliens. Sent them math problems through space. Then they sent pictures. Now they wanted to meet face to face. What would they be like? Would they be friendly? Would they understand humans? The alien ship moved closer. Jake could see details now. The surface was smooth and shiny. There were no sharp edges anywhere. It moved without making any sound. Jake wondered how it worked. "Sir, they are asking to come aboard," said Lieutenant Ben Carter. He was nervous. Jake could hear it in his voice. "Let them come," Jake said. "This is why we are here." The aliens arrived in a small shuttle. When they came out, Jake was surprised. They were tall and thin. Their skin was blue and seemed to glow. Their eyes were big and had many parts, like the eyes of an insect, but they moved with grace. They did not seem scary. The leader of the aliens was named Veltar. He spoke in a voice that sounded like music. The computer changed his words into English. "We are happy to meet you," he said. "We want to learn about your people." Jake smiled. "We want to learn about you too. Welcome to our ship." They went to the main meeting room. Dr. Amy Rodriguez was there. She was the person who studied different kinds of life. She had been excited about this meeting for weeks. "Please, sit down," Jake said. The aliens sat in chairs that had been made special for them. Their bodies were different from human bodies. They needed different furniture. Veltar looked around the room. His skin changed colors as he looked at things. The computer said this meant he was curious. "Your ship is very different from ours," he said. "We find it interesting. We have brought things to show you," Lisa said. She had a big table full of items. There were books, music, paintings, and food. "These are examples of human culture." The aliens looked at everything with great interest. They picked up the books and somehow read them very fast. They listened to the music, and their skin changed colors with the beat. They looked at the paintings for a long time. "Your people make beautiful things," Veltar said. "We can see that you have strong feelings. This is very different from our people." Ben Carter was in charge of showing the aliens human food and drinks. He had prepared many different things. There was bread, fruit, cheese, and many kinds of drinks. He had worked hard to pick things that might taste good to aliens, but Ben was nervous. He had made a mistake. On the table, next to the water and juice, there was a bottle of whiskey. It was supposed to be for the captain's private collection. Ben had put it there by accident. "These are things that humans eat and drink," Ben said. He pointed to all the items on the table. "We need these to stay alive, but some are just for fun." The aliens looked at everything. They had tools that could tell them what things were made of. They scanned the bread and the fruit. They seemed to understand what these things were for. Then Veltar's big eyes looked at the whiskey bottle. "This liquid is different," he said. "It has a strange structure. What is it for?" Ben's face turned red. He knew he had made a mistake. The rules said not to give aliens anything that might cause problems, but now they were asking about it. "That is called alcohol," Ben said slowly. "Humans drink it sometimes. It makes them feel different." All the aliens turned to look at Ben. Their skin colors changed fast. The computer said this meant they were very interested. Feel different how? Asked another alien scientist named Clivex. Does it hurt you? No, it does not hurt, Ben said. It makes humans more relaxed. Sometimes it makes them happy. Sometimes it makes them say things they would not normally say. The aliens looked at each other. They made soft musical sounds. The computer could not translate these sounds. You put chemicals in your body on purpose? Veltar asked. To change how you think? Well, yes, Ben said. Many humans do this. It is normal for us, Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward. She could see that the aliens were very curious about this. Alcohol is part of human culture, she said. We use it when we celebrate. We use it when we are sad. We use it when we want to be social with other people. The aliens were quiet for a long time. Finally, Veltar spoke. In all our travels across the galaxy, we have never seen anything like this. No other species changes their thinking on purpose. Can we study this substance? Asked Clivex. We want to understand how it works. Jake looked at his crew. This was not what they had planned, but the aliens seemed friendly. Maybe it would be okay. Double quotes, yes, Jake said. You can study it. But you must be careful. It affects different people in different ways. The aliens were very excited. They took samples of the whiskey and began to study it right away. They had machines that could break it down into tiny parts. They worked fast and talked to each other in their musical language. This is amazing, Veltar said. Your people have found a way to change their minds temporarily. This might explain many things about humans. Explain what? Asked Dr. Rodriguez. Your art, your music, your willingness to take risks. Other species in the galaxy are very logical. They do not do things unless they are sure of the results. But humans seem different. You do things because they feel right, not because they make sense. Jake thought about this. Maybe the aliens were right. Humans did things that other species might think were crazy. They wrote poetry. They fell in love. They explored space even when it was dangerous. Perhaps, Veltar continued, this alcohol is connected to what makes humans special. The meeting continued for hours. The aliens asked many questions about alcohol. They wanted to know how it was made, how often humans used it, and what it did to their bodies and minds. By the end of the day, Jake realized that this first meeting had not gone as planned. Instead of showing the aliens human technology or science, they had accidentally introduced them to human drinking. He wondered if this was a good thing or a bad thing, but the aliens seemed happy. They thanked the humans many times. They said they wanted to learn more about this strange human custom. As the alien shuttle left the Liberty, Jake watched it go. He had a feeling that this was just the beginning of something much bigger. The aliens were not just curious about alcohol. They were curious about what it meant to be human. Captain, Lisa said, do you think we did the right thing? Jake looked out at the stars. I don't know, he said, but I think we just changed everything. The next morning, Jake woke up to find his ship full of alien scientists. They had worked all night studying the whiskey. Their excitement was easy to see. Their skin glowed brighter than before, and they moved around quickly. Dr. Amy Rodriguez met Jake in the hallway. She looked tired but interested. Captain, you need to see what they found, she said. In the science lab, 20 alien scientists were working at different machines. They had broken down the whiskey into its smallest parts. They had charts and graphs everywhere. Veltar was in the middle of it all, directing the work. Captain Morrison, Veltar said when he saw Jake, this substance is more complex than we thought. It contains many different chemicals. But the most interesting part is how it affects your brain. Clivex showed Jake a picture on a screen. It showed a human brain with different colors. When humans drink alcohol, these areas change. He explained. The parts that control fear and worry become less active. The parts that control happiness become more active. This is not just a drink, said another scientist named Nexara. This is a tool that changes how humans think and feel. Jake was starting to understand why the aliens were so interested. They had spent their whole lives being logical and careful. The idea of changing their minds on purpose was completely new to them. We want to see how this works, Beltar said. We want to watch humans use this substance. Will you help us? Jake thought about it. The aliens seemed friendly, and they were just trying to learn. Maybe it would help them understand humans better. Okay, Jake said, but we will do this carefully. Alcohol can be dangerous if not used properly. They set up a special room for the experiment. The aliens put cameras and sensors everywhere. They wanted to record everything that happened. Sergeant Kevin Walsh volunteered to go first. He was a tough soldier who had been in many battles. He was not afraid of anything. I will do this for my species, Kevin said with a smile. He sat down in front of all the alien scientists. They watched him like he was the most interesting thing in the universe. Kevin drank a small amount of whiskey. At first, nothing happened. Then, slowly, he began to change. His serious face became more relaxed. He started to smile more. He began to talk more than usual. The aliens watched everything. Their skin colors changed rapidly as they took notes. They had never seen anything like this before. How do you feel? Asked Nixara. I feel good, Kevin said. Relaxed, happy, like I want to talk to people. Then Kevin started telling jokes. He told funny stories about his time in the military. He laughed at his own jokes. The aliens were amazed. They had never seen a serious soldier act this way. Remarkable, Clivax said. The subject's personality has changed completely. He is expressing humor and joy. This is not logical behavior. But it is very human behavior, Dr. Rodriguez said. This is how many humans act when they drink alcohol. The aliens asked Kevin many questions. They wanted to know what he was thinking and feeling. Kevin answered all of them honestly. He talked about his fears, his hopes, and his dreams. He said things he would never say when he was sober. This is incredible, Veltar said. The alcohol has made him more open and honest. He is sharing personal information without fear. Next, Petty Officer Susan Blake volunteered. She was a quiet person who usually kept to herself. When she drank the whiskey, she became very different from Kevin. Susan became thoughtful and deep. She talked about life and death. She talked about the meaning of existence. She asked big questions about the universe. The aliens were fascinated by her philosophical thoughts. Two humans, same substance, completely different reactions, Nexara observed. This is impossible, according to our understanding of biology. Every human is different, Dr. Rodriguez explained. Alcohol affects people in different ways. Some become happy and social. Some become sad. Some become deep thinkers. Some become aggressive. The aliens wanted to see more. Over the next few days, many crew members volunteered for the experiments. Each person reacted differently. Some sang songs. Some told stories. Some became very emotional. Some became very friendly. But the most interesting part for the aliens was when several humans drank together. They watched as the crew members became closer to each other. They shared secrets. They laughed together. They showed emotions they usually kept hidden. This is a social bonding ritual, Beltar realized. Humans use this substance to connect with each other on a deeper level. The aliens were particularly interested in how alcohol affected human creativity. They gave the crew members art supplies and asked them to create things while drinking. The results were amazing. Lieutenant Danny Cooper, who was usually very serious, painted beautiful pictures after drinking whiskey. The colors were bright and emotional. The shapes were free and wild. It was completely different from his usual. Careful work. Ensign Mary Johnson wrote poetry that made the aliens very curious. Her words were full of feeling and emotion. She wrote about love and loss and hope. The aliens had never seen anything like it. Your species uses this substance to unlock hidden parts of your mind, Clivex said. Parts that are usually controlled by logic and fear. The experiments continued for days. The aliens documented everything. They measured brain activity. They recorded conversations. They studied how alcohol affected human behavior in every possible way. But they also started to understand something deeper about humans. They saw that alcohol was not just about the chemical effects. It was about culture and tradition and social. Connection. Dr. Rodriguez tried to explain this to them. Humans have been using alcohol for thousands of years, she said. It is part of our history. We use it for celebrations, for religious ceremonies, for social gatherings. It brings people together. The aliens were amazed by this. In their culture, everything was planned and logical. They did not have traditions that seemed to make no sense. They did not do things just because they felt good. Your species is very different from ours, Veltar said. We make decisions based on logic and efficiency. But humans make decisions based on emotion and feeling. This alcohol helps you access those emotions. The aliens started to realize that this was not just about a drink. This was about what made humans human. It was about their willingness to be vulnerable and emotional. It was about their ability to connect with each other in deep ways. Perhaps this explains why humans are so creative, Nixara suggested. Your art, your music, your stories, they all come from emotion, not logic. The alcohol helps you access that creativity. As the experiments continued, the aliens became more and more interested in human culture. They wanted to know everything about how humans used alcohol. They wanted to understand the social rules and customs around drinking. They learned about parties and celebrations. They learned about toasts and cheers. They learned about the difference between casual drinking and serious alcoholism. They learned that alcohol could be both good and bad for humans. Your species has found a way to temporarily change your consciousness, Galtar said. This is unprecedented in the galaxy. No other species we know of does this voluntarily. The aliens started to see humans in a new way. Before, they had thought humans were just another young species trying to explore space. Now they realized that humans were unique. They had abilities and behaviors that no other species possessed. We must report this to our leaders, Clivex said. This discovery will change how the galaxy sees humanity. But the aliens were not just interested in studying humans anymore. They were starting to wonder what it would be like to experience these changes themselves. They watched the humans become more open, more creative, more connected to each other. They began to wonder if they were missing something important. Is it possible, Nexara asked quietly, for our species to experience something similar? This question would change everything. The aliens were not content to just observe anymore. They wanted to understand what it felt like to be human. They wanted to experience the strange and wonderful thing called alcohol. Jake could see the change in the aliens. They were no longer just curious scientists. They were becoming something more. They were becoming interested in experiencing human consciousness for themselves. This is just the beginning, Jake thought to himself. Things are about to get very interesting. 3 days after the experiments began, everything changed. Veltar received a message from his home planet. The leaders of his people had heard about the alcohol discovery. They wanted to know everything about it. Immediately, Jake watched as more alien ships arrived. First came another Zephyrian vessel, bigger than the first one. Then came ships from other species that Jake had never seen before. The space around the Liberty became crowded with alien vessels. Captain, Lisa said, looking worried. We have visitors from 4 different alien species. They all want to study our alcohol. Jake looked out at the growing fleet of alien ships. This was not what he had expected when he agreed to the cultural exchange. What have we started? He wondered. The first new arrivals were the Croxy. They were a military species that looked like giant insects. Their leader, General Thok Run, had 4 arms and wore armor that looked like it was made of metal. He spoke in a harsh, commanding voice. "We have come to study this weapon," Thok Run announced when he boarded the Liberty. "Weapon?" Jake asked, confused. "Alcohol is not a weapon." "Any substance that changes how warriors think is a weapon," Thok Run replied. "We must understand how it works. Can it make soldiers braver? Can it make them fight better?" Dr. Rodriguez tried to explain. "General, alcohol does not make people better fighters. It actually makes them worse at fighting. It slows their reactions and affects their judgment." But Thok Run was not convinced. Then why do humans use it? There must be some military advantage. The next ship brought the Eldari, an ancient species. That looked like tall, thin humans with silver skin. Their leader, Scholar Ain Duris, was interested in alcohol for completely different reasons. "We have heard that this substance enhances creativity and deep thinking," she said. "Our people have spent centuries trying to understand the mysteries of the universe. If this alcohol can help us think in new ways, we must study it." The third new species was the Syntheti. They were part machine, part living being. Their representative, Unit 7742, did not understand alcohol at all. "Your organic forms voluntarily reduce efficiency," Unit 7742 stated. "This is illogical. Why do you choose to make yourselves less capable?" Jake found himself trying to explain human culture to 4 different alien species at once. Each one had a different idea about what alcohol was and what it could do. "You have to understand," Jake said to all of them. "Alcohol is not about becoming better or worse at things. It is about being human. It is about connecting with other people and expressing our feelings." But the aliens were not satisfied with this answer. They wanted to conduct their own experiments. They wanted to see alcohol's effects for themselves. The Craxi set up military tests. They wanted to see how alcohol affected human soldiers in combat situations. They created fake battles and watched how drinking affected the humans fighting. Abilities. The results were exactly what Dr. Rodriguez had predicted. The human soldiers who drank alcohol were slower, less accurate, and made poor decisions. But General Thok Run was still fascinated. "They show no fear," he observed. "The alcohol makes them willing to take risks that sober soldiers would avoid." The Eldari conducted their own experiments with human artists and writers. They gave them alcohol and asked them to create art and write stories. Scholar Ain Idris was amazed by the results. "The creativity is remarkable," she said. "Their art becomes more emotional and expressive. Their writing becomes more personal and meaningful." The Syntheti tried to understand alcohol from a purely scientific perspective. They analyzed every chemical in it. They studied how it affected the human brain. But they could not understand why humans would want these effects. "The substance reduces processing speed by 15%, Unit 7742 reported. "It impairs memory formation by 23%. It decreases motor control by 31%. Why is this desirable?" Meanwhile, the Zephyrians continued their own research. They had been studying alcohol longer than the other species, and they were starting to understand its deeper meaning. "This is not just about the substance itself," Veltar explained to the other alien leaders. "This is about human social behavior. They use alcohol to bond with each other, to share emotions, to create connections." The different alien species began to argue about alcohol's purpose. The Craxi thought it was a military tool. The Eldari thought it was a creativity enhancer. The Syntheti thought it was a malfunction. The Zephyrians thought it was a social bonding mechanism. Jake watched the arguments with growing concern. The aliens were becoming obsessed with alcohol. They were fighting over who could study it and how it should be used. This is getting out of control, Jake told his crew. We need to help them understand what alcohol really means to humans. Dr. Rodriguez had an idea. Maybe we need to show them how humans actually use alcohol in real situations. Not in experiments, but in real life. Jake agreed. They organized a party for all the aliens. They invited them to see how humans actually drank alcohol in a social setting. The party was unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Humans drank alcohol and became more friendly and open. They talked and laughed together. They shared stories and emotions. They sang songs and danced that the aliens watched in amazement. They had never seen beings act this way. The humans were vulnerable and emotional, but they seemed happy and connected. This is not about military advantage or creativity enhancement, Veltar realized. This is about joy and connection. But the other alien species were not convinced. General Thok-Run thought the humans were making themselves weak. Scholar Ainidris thought they were wasting their intellectual potential. Unit 7742 thought they were malfunctioning. The arguments between the alien species became more intense. Each group wanted to take alcohol back to their own people for their own purposes. They began to make demands. We require samples of all human alcohol varieties, General Thok-Run announced. We must test them with our own warriors. We need access to human artists and writers, Scholar Ainidris said. We want to understand how alcohol affects creativity. We demand the chemical formulas for alcohol production, Unit 7742 stated. We will analyze its effects on different species. Jake realized that the situation was spiraling out of control. The aliens were not just curious about alcohol anymore. They were becoming competitive and aggressive about it. We need to slow this down, Jake told his crew. The aliens are missing the point. They think alcohol is some kind of tool or weapon. They do not understand that it is about being human. But it was too late. The alien leaders had already sent messages to their home planets. Soon more ships would arrive. Each species would want to study alcohol for their own purposes. The situation became even more complicated when the aliens started asking about Earth. They wanted to visit the human home planet to see how alcohol was used in human society. We must observe alcohol use in its natural environment, Veltar said. We want to visit your planet and study human drinking customs. Jake knew this would be a disaster. Earth was not ready for an invasion of alien scientists. The people of Earth would panic if hundreds of alien ships arrived wanting to study human drinking habits. That is not possible right now, Jake said. Earth needs time to prepare for such a visit. But the aliens were insistent. They had decided that alcohol was the key to understanding humanity. They would not be denied that the Craxi threatened to take alcohol samples by force. The Eldari offered to trade advanced technology for access to human artists. The Syntheti began scanning the Liberty for alcohol storage areas. Not only the Zephyrians seemed to understand Jake's concerns. Veltar approached him privately. I think my people and the others are making a mistake, Veltar said. They are treating alcohol like a commodity to be studied and used. But I think it is something more important than that. What do you mean? Jake asked. I think alcohol is not just a chemical substance. I think it is a symbol of what makes humans special. Your willingness to be vulnerable, to show emotion, to connect with others, even when it is not logical. Jake nodded. This alien understood humans better than the others did. The question is, Veltar continued, what do we do now? My people and the others will not give up. They will keep pushing until they get what they want. Jake looked out at the growing fleet of alien ships. Each one represented a different species with different ideas about what alcohol meant. None of them truly understood what they were asking for. I don't know, Jake admitted, but I think we are about to find out just how much trouble a simple bottle of whiskey can cause. A stage was set for a much bigger conflict. The aliens were no longer just curious visitors. They were becoming demanding researchers who would not take no for an answer. And Jake was caught in the middle, trying to protect both human culture and the fragile peace between species. The discovery of alcohol had changed everything. Now Jake had to figure out how to manage the consequences. 2 weeks after the first alien ship arrived, Jake found himself in the middle of the biggest discovery in galactic history. News of human alcohol had spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Ships from dozens of different species were arriving every day. Dr. Elena Martinez arrived from Earth to help manage the situation. She was an expert in alien cultures and spoke many alien languages. Jake was relieved to have her help. "Captain," she said when she came aboard the Liberty, "Earth Command is very worried. We have reports of alien ships heading toward our solar system. They all want to study alcohol." Jake showed her the reports from the alien scientists. There were thousands of pages of research. Each species had written detailed studies about alcohol and its effects on humans. "Look at this," Jake said, pointing to a Zephyrian report. "They say that humans are the only species in the galaxy that voluntarily changes their consciousness for social purposes." Elena read the report carefully. They studied over 200 different species? Yes, and according to them, no other species has ever developed anything like alcohol. No other species deliberately makes themselves less logical for social bonding. Elena was quiet for a moment. "That means humans are unique in the galaxy. We are the only ones who do this." The implications were huge. If humans were truly unique in their relationship with alcohol, then they were special in ways no one had. Ever imagine Dr. Clivex presented his findings to a gathering of alien scientists from 12 different species. His skin glowed brightly as he spoke. "In our comprehensive survey of galactic civilizations, we have found that humans possess a unique psychological characteristic. They are willing to temporarily impair their logical thinking in order to enhance social and emotional connections." The alien audience was silent. This was unprecedented in their experience. "Furthermore," Clivex continued, "this behavior appears to be connected to human creativity, adaptability, and social cooperation. Species that maintain strict logical control do not develop the same levels of artistic expression or emotional bonding." Scholar Amy Dress of the Eldari raised her hand. "Are you suggesting that alcohol consumption is the key to human creative achievement?" "Not directly," Clivex replied, "but the willingness to embrace altered consciousness states appears to be related to human flexibility of thought. Humans create art that expresses pure emotion. They take risks for abstract concepts like honor and love. They form social bonds that transcend logical necessity." General Thokraun of the Krexi was skeptical. "You are saying that making oneself less efficient is somehow an advantage?" "In terms of pure efficiency, no," Clivex admitted. "But in terms of adaptability and creativity, yes. Humans solve problems in ways that purely logical species cannot. They think outside established patterns." Dr. Rodriguez listened to the discussion with growing understanding. The aliens were beginning to see that alcohol was not just a chemical substance. It was a window into human nature itself. "What you are describing," she said to the assembled aliens, "is not just about alcohol. It is about human willingness to be vulnerable. We take emotional risks. We express feelings even when it is not logical. We connect with others even when it might hurt us. The aliens were fascinated by this concept. In their cultures, vulnerability was seen as weakness. Logic and efficiency were the highest values. But humans seemed to thrive on emotional expression. And social connection. Unit-7742 of the Syntheti asked, how do you maintain social order if your people regularly impair their judgment? We have rules and customs, Dr. Rodriguez explained. We learn when and how to drink alcohol safely. We take care of each other. We use it to bring people together, not to cause harm. The research continued for weeks. The aliens discovered that human alcohol consumption was deeply embedded in human history and culture. It was not just a recreational activity. It was part of human identity. They learned about religious ceremonies that used alcohol to connect with the divine. They learned about diplomatic negotiations that were sealed with shared drinks. They learned about celebrations and mourning rituals that brought communities together. Your species uses alcohol as a social lubricant, Veltar observed. It helps. You overcome natural barriers to emotional expression and social bonding. The aliens began to understand that humans were not just different from other species. They were uniquely gifted in ways that other species found difficult to achieve. Your ability to form emotional connections gives you advantages in cooperation and teamwork, Scholar Anidris noted. Your willingness to take risks allows you to explore and innovate. Your emotional expression creates art that moves others. But the most significant discovery came when the aliens compared human achievements to those of other species. Humans had developed art, music, and literature that was more emotionally powerful than anything else in the galaxy. They had formed cooperative societies that were more flexible and adaptable than others. Perhaps, Dr. Klivex suggested, the willingness to temporarily abandon pure logic is not a weakness, but a strength. It allows for new ways of thinking and feeling. The galactic community was stunned by these findings. Universities across dozens of worlds began studying human consciousness and behavior. Humans went from being seen as a primitive young species to being recognized as uniquely gifted beings. But with this recognition came new challenges. Every species wanted to understand how humans achieved their unique abilities. They all wanted to know if alcohol could give them similar advantages. Can we modify alcohol to work with our biology? Asked the Zephyrian scientists. Can we create synthetic substances that produce similar effects? Asked the Aldari researchers. Can we program similar consciousness states? Asked the Syntheti engineers. Jake realized that the situation had grown far beyond what anyone had expected. The aliens were not just curious about alcohol anymore. They wanted to experience what it was like to be human. Elena Martinez worked with the alien scientists to develop plans for controlled experiments. If we are going to do this, she said, we need to be very careful. We don't know how these substances will affect non-human biology. The first experiments were conducted with volunteers from each species. The scientists created modified versions of alcohol that could work with different types of alien physiology. The results were remarkable. The Zephyrians who tried the modified alcohol began creating art that was more beautiful and emotional than anything their species had ever produced. Their usual logical, structured thinking became more fluid and creative. The Eldari participants experienced what they called intellectual liberation. Their minds, freed from rigid analytical patterns, made connections between concepts that had eluded their greatest thinkers. Even the Syntheti, with their cybernetic enhancements, found that simulated alcohol effects improved their creativity and social interaction programs. But the most surprising result came from the Cruxy. General Thokron himself volunteered to try the modified alcohol. Instead of becoming a better warrior, he became more thoughtful and philosophical. I understand now, he said after the experience. This is not about becoming stronger or weaker. This is about becoming more complete. We have spent so long focusing on efficiency and logic that we forgot about the value of emotion and connection. The experiments were a success, but they also raised new questions. If alcohol could enhance creativity and social bonding for other species, what did this mean for galactic civilization? The alien leaders began to discuss the implications. They realized that their strict focus on logic and efficiency might have been limiting their development. They started to wonder if they had been missing something important about consciousness and social connection. Perhaps, Veltar suggested, we need to learn from humans not just about alcohol, but about the value of emotional expression and social vulnerability. The idea spread quickly through the galactic community. Species that had maintained formal, distant relationships for centuries began to consider more open, emotional exchanges. Jake watched these developments with amazement. A simple bottle of whiskey had led to a revolution in galactic thinking. The aliens were not just studying human alcohol. They were learning to value human qualities like emotion, creativity, and social connection. We have started something big, Jake told Elena. These aliens are not just interested in our alcohol. They are interested in becoming more like us, Elena nodded. The question is, are we ready for a galaxy full of aliens who have learned to think and feel like humans? The answer to that question would determine the future of galactic civilization. Humans had accidentally shown the galaxy that there was more to consciousness than pure logic. Now everyone wanted to learn what it meant to be emotionally alive. The stage was set for the most significant cultural exchange in galactic history. And it all started with a bottle of whiskey that was supposed to be for the captain's private collection. 6 months had passed since the first alien ship arrived at the Liberty. The small meeting between humans and Zephyrians had grown into the largest gathering of alien species in galactic history. Earth had become the center of scientific research. For dozens of civilizations, Jake Morrison, now promoted to admiral, stood on the bridge of the new space station, Unity. The station had been built specifically to handle the massive influx of alien visitors. Through the windows, he could see ships from 47 different species. Dr. Elena Martinez had been named director of the new Institute for Consciousness Studies. The facility was located on the station and hosted alien researchers from across the galaxy. All of them were studying human consciousness and alcohol's role in human culture. Admiral, Elena said as she joined Jake on the bridge, we have a situation. The alien scientists are making a formal request. Jake looked at the document she handed him. They want to participate in what they call consciousness-sharing rituals. They want to drink alcohol with humans, Elena explained. Not just study it, but actually experience it socially. They want to participate in human drinking customs. This was the moment Jake had been both expecting and dreading. The aliens had spent months studying alcohol and its effects. Now they wanted to experience it for themselves in the way humans actually used it. The proposal created intense debate among both humans and aliens. Many humans worried about the ethics of introducing aliens to intoxicating substances. Some alien species questioned whether consciousness alteration was appropriate for their evolved civilizations. But the alien scientists had made their decision. They believed that only by experiencing alcohol in its natural social context could they truly understand what made humans unique. Dr. Clivex led the alien research team. We have studied alcohol's chemical effects extensively, he explained, but we have not experienced its social and emotional effects. We believe this is necessary for complete understanding. The preparations took weeks. Human and alien scientists worked together to create versions of alcohol that would be safe for different alien physiologies. They had to be careful not to cause harm while still producing the desired effects. The first interspecies drinking session was scheduled to take place in the Unity's main conference hall. Representatives from 12 different species would participate. The event would be recorded for scientific study and historical documentation. Admiral Jake Morrison was chosen to lead the ceremony. He had been present at the very beginning of this strange journey, and it seemed fitting that he should oversee its culmination. The conference hall was arranged with tables and seating appropriate for all the different species. Humans sat next to Zephyrians, Craxi, Eldari, Syntheti, and 8 other alien species. Each group had their own specially prepared alcoholic beverages. This is either the beginning of a new era in galactic cooperation, Jake said to Elena, or the most elaborate diplomatic disaster in history. The ceremony began with Jake raising his glass of whiskey. To consciousness, to friendship, and to the courage to be vulnerable in the pursuit of understanding. The phrase had been carefully chosen. It captured the essence of what alcohol meant. To humans, not just a chemical substance, but a tool for connection and emotional expression. Representatives from all 12 species raised their various containers. The Zephyrians had crystalline vessels that glowed softly. The Craxi had metal cups that reflected the light. The Eldari had elegant glasses that seemed to be made of pure energy. To understanding, they said in unison, each in their own language. Effects began to appear within minutes. The Zephyrian skin began to shift through colors that had never been documented in their species. Their usual harmonic communication became more complex and beautiful. They began creating musical compositions that were unlike anything they had ever produced. Dr. Rodriguez watched in amazement as Veltar's skin displayed patterns of incredible beauty. I feel liberated, he said. My thoughts are flowing in ways I never imagined possible. The Craxi reaction was perhaps the most surprising. General Thok Run, known for his rigid military discipline, became thoughtful and introspective. Instead of talking about warfare and strategy, he began discussing the nature of courage and honor. I have spent my life believing that strength comes from never showing weakness, he said. But now I understand that true strength comes from choosing when to be vulnerable. The Eldari scholar A. Nadris experienced what she described as intellectual freedom. Her analytical mind, freed from its usual constraints, began making connections between concepts that had puzzled her species' greatest thinkers. I see relationships between ideas that were invisible to me before, she said. My mind is moving in patterns that logic alone could never achieve. Even the Syntheti, who had initially been the most skeptical, found value in the experience. Unit 7742 had developed a program that simulated alcohol's effects on cybernetic systems. The results improved creativity and social interaction in ways that surprised even the Syntheti engineers. This program enhances our ability to think in non-linear patterns, Unit 7742 reported. It allows for creative solutions that our standard programming cannot generate. But the most significant moment came when the different species began interacting with each other. The alcohol broke down the formal barriers that had existed between them for centuries. They began sharing personal stories, expressing emotions, and forming connections that transcended species boundaries. Jake watched as a Zephyrian scientist and a Craxi warrior discovered they both had similar fears about the future. He saw an Eldari scholar and a human engineer collaborate on ideas that neither could have conceived alone. This is remarkable, Elena whispered to Jake. They are not just experiencing alcohol's effects. They are learning to connect with each other emotionally. The evening continued with increasingly open and honest conversations. The aliens shared their hopes, fears, and dreams. They talked about their cultures, their histories, and their aspirations for the future. The Zephyrians created a group musical composition that incorporated elements from all the different species. The Craxi told stories of honor and courage that moved everyone to tears. The Eldari shared philosophical insights that sparked deep conversations about the nature of consciousness. As the night progressed, the formal diplomatic protocols gave way to genuine friendship and understanding. Species that had maintained distant relationships for millennia began to see each other as individuals rather than representatives of their civilizations. The culminating moment came when Admiral Morrison proposed a toast to the discovery that consciousness is not just about logic and efficiency. It is about emotion, creativity, and the courage to be vulnerable with others. The aliens understood completely. They had experienced firsthand what it meant to be emotionally open and socially connected. They had learned that strength could come from showing weakness, that creativity could emerge from letting go of control. "We propose," said Veltar, his skin glowing with colors of joy and friendship, "that this become a regular practice. Not just for study, but for building relationships between our peoples." The other alien representatives agreed. They had discovered something valuable in the human practice of social drinking. It was not just about the alcohol itself, but about the willingness to be vulnerable and open with others. In the weeks that followed, the practice of interspecies social drinking became a cornerstone of galactic diplomacy. Trade agreements were negotiated over shared drinks. Conflicts were resolved through what became known as consciousness-sharing sessions. Cultural exchange programs flourished. The Galactic Council established new protocols for interspecies relations based on humanity's example. The formal, logical approach that had dominated galactic civilization for millennia was supplemented by more emotional and personal interactions. Earth became the unofficial capital of this new galactic civilization, not because of military power or technological superiority, but because humans had shown the galaxy something it had never seen before: the value of emotional vulnerability and social connection. Dr. Rodriguez, reflecting on the transformation, made an observation that became central to the new galactic philosophy. "We thought we were just sharing our alcohol with aliens. Instead, we taught them that true strength comes from the courage to be authentically themselves with others." The story of how aliens discovered human liquor became the foundation myth of the new galactic civilization. In every corner of the galaxy, when representatives of different species gathered to celebrate, negotiate, or simply enjoy each other's company, they would raise their glasses in the manner humans had taught them. The universe had learned to toast. And in learning to toast, it had learned to be truly alive. Years later, when historians studied this period, they would call it the Great Awakening. It was the time when galactic civilization discovered that consciousness was not just about thinking, but about feeling. Not just about logic, but about love. Not just about efficiency, but about connection. And it all started with a bottle of whiskey that Lieutenant Ben Carter had accidentally left on a table. During humanity's first contact with alien life, the galaxy would never be the same.